Welcome to Focus on Business, a podcast show for photographers with me, your host, Jane Goodrich. I'm talking to successful photographers so you can learn from our experiences and have the business of your dreams. So join us and let's focus on business. So welcome to today's show on Focus on Business. We have the fantastic Amber Henry on the show. And don't know if you haven't seen her work, which you have to check out because it's amazing. She's a wedding portrait senior photographer, but she also educates photographers and mentors them. And she has some amazing flash photography skills. And I am in awe of your work. And I'm just welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
I'm so excited to be here, even from like our original little 5-minute chit chat together. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. So just in case people haven't heard about you or seen your work, like tell us a little bit more about you, and also what led you into photography and, just tell us a little bit more.
So my name is Amber Henry. I have been a photographer I was trying to figure this out the other day, almost 20 years now, which is almost my entire adult life, which is hilarious because I still have that fear that one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have to go get like a job.
A real job.
A
real job. Air quotes.
I was like, oh God, I better like make this last. But yeah, so like my whole adult life, I have been a photographer. I started at a chain studio, portrait chain studio, when I was really young. And I worked there for 4.5 years. I became a manager of studios really quick, and then I was training people. And I really wanted to get into weddings, and they wouldn't let me have weekends off. So eventually I did have to leave so I could pursue weddings. And yeah, I had a lot of support from my mom. I had little kids at home. It was very not ideal to start your own business the way that I did it. And I probably wouldn't recommend it. But I was very determined. And I'm so happy. I have the best life. I do what I want. I create art.
Yeah.
What else can you ask for? I'm very happy.
So I think that's interesting that you started off at, a portrait chain, so you actually were able to learn a little bit more about the business side and working with clients and then figuring out, well, I don't actually love portraits, high volume. Like, let me go do weddings. Like, tell us about what you learned from that and how you've applied it to your business.
So it definitely, as much as I hated the company, I love the clients. I had a lot of repeat clients. I love seeing them. I loved watching the kids grow up. I did a lot of babies and newborns. And when I went out on my own, I was still trying to do babies and newborns. And I just realized it just was not where my heart was. I strongly feel that people who do babies and newborns for a living, they just are a different breed, It's just...
Absolutely.
They have patience and they have, it's such a very tactile, specific kind of genre. And I wanted fast pace and a little bit of crazy and, crazy lighting. And I wanted to do all these things. So I had to learn, which I think all photographers have to learn, is that you don't have to do everything. You can find what you are good at and find what you love and specifically do that. So, some of the good things I learned from working for that company, though, is I learned sales, and I really learned how to sell because they made it a contest between the studios throughout the nation. Every day we had to call in our numbers, and at the end of the week, it was like who was top sales. And I am very goal-oriented, so I was very much like my name is always going to be number one. So my sales were really good because I, one, believed in my photos, but two, also wanted to have the highest numbers. So, I did learn sales through them, which is great because it's something else that when I started on my own, I already had kind of a background in.
Right.
They were not good at teaching lighting. Everything was pre-done. So I had to basically start from the basics and learn that. But I knew people and I knew sales.
That's interesting. Yeah. 100%. And I think a lot of photography is in sales, and it can be even selling via email, selling via your website, selling via how you communicate on the phone prior to not just selling okay, the artwork at the end or like the number of digitals, you are going to be selling yourself. Like you are going to be like, hey, this is my work. Most photographers have their name as their photography business name. Mine's Jane Goodrich Photography. So it's like, okay, you got to be comfortable with at least a portion of selling. And part of that selling, I feel like, is once you start getting inquiries, and then you're not going to sell every single time. So I think that one of the keys, apart from learning to sell, is also learning that not every person's going to buy. And so the number of inquiries that you need for people to say yes to, you're not. I remember when I first started, my sister, I have a twin sister, she's in sales, and she was like, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, everyone that emails me should book me. And she's like, no, they're not. Like, they're not. And so, and I was, and so she was like, focus on getting the inquiries up. And then those people that say no, it doesn't matter because you're getting a higher volume of inquiries. And, if you learn what the percentage of saying yes to is, maybe 10, maybe 20%, you're doing well. You just need volume, right? So I think that was like the sales I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, it's like when you're dating. Just because somebody asks you on a date does not mean you want to let them take you on a date. You need to be
right.
You want to spend your time with and then focus on them.
And they could be a great person, just not right for you, right? And so you're like, goodbye, Bob. I'm sorry. You're not right for me, but you might be right. Chad. See you later, Chad. Yeah. So yeah, might be not right for anybody. Just kidding. If anyone Chad is listening, sorry, it's just making a joke. I don't know a Chad, so but drop in the comments if there's a Chad listening. Just anyway, I think what's funny about you saying patience for newborn photography is I'm a newborn photographer by heart, and then it expanded more into family photography where you do get the craziness running around after toddlers. I did one wedding. One. I know you have to use a lot of patience for weddings.
Oh, you do.
I think it's a little different patience. Like,
yeah,
I have no patience. Like, so this is my example. I have no patience for groomsmen that won't listen to me taking off their sunglasses. Like, that was like, I'm like, take off your sunglasses. And everyone's like, oh, she's so cute with her English accent. I was like, my blood is boiling. I want to kill you. Like, and then I'm like, you're not 2 years old, not listening. You're 32 years old. Like,
right. Like, you have a family, your wife and your kids are over there and you can't.
You got you got married last year, 6 months ago. So you know what it's like for family photos. Like, come on. I'm like, just no, told Chad. Sorry, Chad. But he was like probably the reason why I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to people that are acting like 2-year-olds that are 2-year-olds. Yeah.
It's patience either way. You're either going to have patience with kids or patience with adults. But you are a professional running a business, and it's a lot of and breathing and getting in your car and downloading all of this with your assistant who also saw everything, and then having the hour chat on the way home about
it's just the vent. You definitely need, if you are doing this by yourself, you definitely need another photographer friend being like, oh my gosh,
yes.
I didn't
need a witness.
Well, you got a witness, but you also like, I remember we had gotten together, it was probably quite early on, and I was like, does anybody else have problems with dads just like not really being into it? And everybody was like, yes. And then I was like, oh, I'm not the bad person. It's like dads are, they're either like for family photos, they're either, oh, family photos, and I'll smile barely, or they're like, what camera settings are you using? And like in my face, I'm like, get out of the way. I've got lenses there. 2 seconds to actually get your toddlers, the 3 triplets that you have, to get sick. No way. I'll talk to you about camera settings later.
Right.
But yeah, anyway. So if you were to start your business again or travel back in time and tell yourself something, right when you were starting, would you have done anything differently?
I would have done everything differently. I love this question because I get a lot of people who come to me for mentorships are either just starting out or maybe just a few years in and making mistakes. And that's so, it's never what they think, because they think it's going to be, learn your camera settings and your lighting, which you should. Before you charge somebody money, you should have those basics down. Did I? I don't know, probably not. I did everything wrong. So after your just basic knowledge of your equipment, posing and lighting, you're running a business. You have to learn how to run a business. It's not romantic. It's not sexy. It's not going to be, you're not going to sit at night and like dream up, how you have a shoot the next day and you're like, oh, I'm going to use this color and this dress. And you, it's not that. You're going to like calculating numbers in your head. But you have to know how to run a business or you will not succeed. You won't succeed. And if you want the photography dream to become a reality, you have to do the whole gamut of it. And it's a little bit of photography, it's a lot of bit of people, and it's a lot of bit about running a business.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like for me, I was lucky because I came from the ad world where I worked for big brands for like 10 years. So I sort of, instead of the sales, I kind of knew the marketing. So like the brand that I wanted to build, I did mess up and spend a bit too much money on ads, but that I only got people asking me for sponsorship, for donations from, but that's a different story. Yeah. But I also knew the numbers, like I'm like fascinated with numbers. And I started out like, okay, what do I need to make? I'm going to try and at least break even this year of, I'm providing service. And I know I've invested a lot, but I think I love the fact that you say it's not easy. And I think the number one thing that can help photographers, if you're listening and you're like, I didn't realize how much business it was, side, you can have somebody do those things for you. Like, yes. Number one thing I outsourced before I actually even started a website was my accountant. Yes, like, yep, I am setting it up. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I outsource my small business accountant down the street, and I still mine. He doesn't like the fact that I don't get back to him on time, but that's a different story. At least it's exciting. Me. Like, he also calls me at the weirdest times. I'm like, dude, like, don't call me at 6 o'clock when I'm trying to feed my kid. But that, and then I think as you sort of start to grow, I outsource my website design. I don't know what I'm doing with website. Like, I want somebody that knows what they're doing and can SEO and get me ranking in Google. And so we have to think of like all these different things of running a business that, we don't think of when it's just like, oh, I just want to take pictures all day. Because that's what I was like. You're not
going to be good at everything. Nobody's good at everything. So take what you struggle with and you're not good at and outsource it. Find somebody who, so for example, I have really, really good friends, Silk Marty Studios in Chicago, Danny and Silk, and they are the team because one of them is creative and one of them is the mathematical brain, and they complement each other so well. But they are also smart enough to know that the other person has those resources and they don't have those, and to come together and share it. And they are a phenomenal powerhouse team because they know not to try to do everything ourselves.
Yeah. And even, there's so many things that you need to do. It's like, answering questions with your clients. It's like, networking, relationships. If you're great at networking, I think you can't replace yourself for networking as a small business owner, but like, social media, like a lot of keeping up with SEO. No, thanks. Like, I just want to take pictures. Like, seriously, I just want to take photos of tiny humans and I'm fine. So the more you can get to a point where you are doing the thing that brought you into this for, like, some people are amazing at editing and love it. Mm-hmm. I do newborn photography, so you got a lot of baby acne and a lot of skin problems, skin issues. That isn't fun. No, that's not fun. Like going through and like retouching and recreating nostrils on kids that have boogers in it. That's not art to me, right? And I would rather outsource that. So I think that the more things that you think that you have to do, I can guarantee you don't have to do. Apart from photograph, and you could even like get associate shooters anyway.
Yeah, and so that goes along with learning the business is learning what to outsource, things you don't even know that you have to do, somebody who can help you with that. But also, in order to be able to outsource, you need to be making the money to pay for the outsourcing, which comes to running the business part. Right. Because we all just want to make all of our clients happy and we want everyone to just be pretty in their pictures and stuff. But if you're not bringing in the money, you're not going to be in business for long. So you're not going to be able to help anybody.
Right.
So it all goes hand in hand together.
And I think that what happens is, and I can blame myself too, is like as an industry, especially with social media, is we make it look so easy, right? So, I mean, we're just sharing the gorgeous photos. We're like happy clients, blah, blah, blah. We're not showing like, oh, I've got to, cull these images. I've got to edit these images. And yes, AI can make it slightly faster, but, I have trouble outsourcing that to a human, never mind AI. But, that's another story. But it's not the boring behind the scenes, oh, I'm going to be emailing this person, oh, this client wants changes, this, that, and the other. We don't talk about that.
Right.
And I actually there was a study back in, I think, 2012 that was like, for every 1 hour of photo shoot, there's 9 hours of back end work. Yeah. And I actually didn't believe that. So we conducted a study that was like over thousands, maybe it's 10,000 now, photographers globally. They've been in business over 4 years. So you sort of past that, like, all right, am I doing it correctly or not? It's 12 hours now because of social media and because of the increase in competition. So like your prices, if you are like, hey, I am, just charging $100. Okay. So you're making grossing, let's say less than $10 an hour. Yep. And what about all your costs?
Easily.
And the thing is, when you first start, you're like, I have a computer, I have a camera. Yeah, your computer's going to die and your camera's going to die. You're going to need a new lens. And by the way, you have costs that, flashes, lighting,
it's
everything.
The number one pet peeve I see in these social media groups. Somebody asks for a photographer, and then it is just a race to the bottom of people. I'll do it for cheaper. I'll do it for cheaper. I'll do it for cheaper. I try to stay away from those groups, but in the photographer groups where somebody posts, let's say, their pricing and they ask for help, if I have a moment, I have decided that I'm going to be very honest with them. Not mean or hurtful, but in a very like, I'm going to break it down in a way that you can see financially you're making $3 an hour. Or I had one girl post the other day. She was very sweet. She just was very, very lost. And I broke it down for her and I was like, so at the very end, every one of your photographs, the digital photograph, not a print, but you're giving the digital picture to be reproduced somewhere else. Another company's printing, so another company's getting paid for your work. You're giving the digital away to this client for 56 cents. Because when you did her math, her pictures were worth 56 cents. And she was floored. But it's because she just was picking numbers out of nowhere because she didn't take time to think about it before she just opened the business. So hopefully that did help her kind of, understand your work is more than 56 cents per image.
Well, and that's one thing is, I mean, probably when you and I started is a little bit different because, less digital cameras. But like, I mean, I started in 2010 and I charged for my digitals. Like I was at $9.50 and my work was, sorry if I have clients listening from that, but like, I knew that the digital images were a product. Yeah. And that's the one thing that like, they're a product.
You're a product.
They're a product. They're your end product. They're their end product. And if we can like get that out there to people, like a product, because just because someone can take a picture on their phone doesn't mean it's less value. You know what? I can cut my own hair doesn't make the hairdresser. I have scissors doesn't mean their service is any less. But it's very complicated because we are a service plus that gives a product. Mm-hmm. But they, people just think, oh, just a service. And, you're just going to give me the digitals. And we kind of bundle it together. We don't outline it of being like the creative session time, which is my time on the session. Plus, then you have 12 images, whatever images separately. It's not all separately. Please.
God.
For the love of God, yeah.
Stop giving away your most valuable product for pennies and then wondering why your clients don't value you. wondering
More
why
not valuing yourself.
all over you, wonder why they're never going to pay more. You're never going to get that upsell that you want. And if you do, you're going to have to discount that too, because your most valuable, your diamonds, you're giving away your diamonds for pennies. They're worth nothing after that.
Right. And I think, I mean, I can rant all day about pricing. We have a calculator that really that goes really deep into it of like, how much do you need to make? Because I'm sick of hearing, well, I'm in Podunk, middle of nowhere, and, you know, I don't need...
We all are.
Fine. I don't care how much you need to make, but you need to make something. Like, how about that? How about more than McDonald's? You know, but you've been studying 5 years of this, and you make a little bit more than the kid at McDonald's that just a teenager. Please.
And if you don't do it for yourself, if you hate money, if you love to live paycheck to paycheck, and you hate money, and you don't like to go out to eat, and you never want new clothing, that's fine. If you don't want to do it for yourself, please do it for other photographers, especially for female photographers, because we're all on the struggle bus with you. And if you are devaluing the industry, then she's going to come along and think she's got to go down. Then she comes along and goes down, and we all get pulled down. So,
well, I would actually say what I've seen a lot of is, and do it for your kids. Like most of it's like, you know, you go into it because you have kids and you want to spend more time with your kids, but just what are you showing to your kids about how much you value yourself?
Right.
What are you saying to your daughter that is she worth doing something for somebody else for nothing?
Right.
Come on.
Or even just giving them a savings account because you're taking the money and making their lives better.
Right.
Money is just the tool with which we communicate. It is just an exchange of goods. You know, I appreciate you, therefore money is involved. Right. It's all it is. Stop putting your emotions into it. Take money.
And it is okay to take money. And I will tell you that, but they're expecting to pay you for it. And, you know, like it is a service. Granted, if you get your neighbor that's annoying that keeps nagging you about taking free photos, fine, that's a different story. But even I will say you can work around that too. Like my twin sister, who I'm never going to charge for images, I still take her through my CRM. She still sees how much I charge, and she gets 100% discount. But she still knows that I charge $50 for a shoot. Why not? I'm not just not gonna. I said I need it. I need you to do it because I need the contract and I need to get on my workflow. I need it on my schedule, but I also need it so you know. Because the worst people are the ones that you have sort of done it for free, and they're like, "Do you have that one?" And I'm like, "No. That's that. I will do that for my paying clients."
Right.
Very much.
Right.
So we chat a lot about pricing, and I could actually go on for hours and hours and hours about pricing. Yeah. And I think that there are calculators out there that will help. Like I will say, Pixello has it. You just have to sign up for a free trial. I'd love you to use the software, but like the calculator is gold. It will come out with average costs, average everything, and by genre, it will tell you, you know, an average full-time wedding photographer that wants to do 35 hours a week, have 2 weeks vacation, 1 week sick time. On average, 25.6 weddings a year. I don't know what the 0.6 wedding is, but it will take in the costs and what you need to make, and I can guarantee you it's more than what you're charging now. But anyway,
they would do this. I wish they would all run their numbers before they open the business. You would start off on such a bang. You know, you would be light years ahead of everybody else if you just spent some time figuring out why you're charging what you need to charge. You know, and take your emotions out of it. Don't worry about like, oh, I can't afford it. Well, it's not about you; it's the client, and they'll come. They'll be there,
and they'll come. Of course, I couldn't afford myself at the same time, but you know what? I also can't afford a Mercedes, and they price it that way too. You know why they price it? Because they've got costs. Like so, you know, I want to be a photographer. I'm not like doing this, you know, and I can take photos of myself. Do you think hairdressers say that? Oh, well, I can't afford the $400 balayage. You know why they don't? Because their best friend that's in the next seat next to them will do it for them for free because they'll trade.
Yep.
So it's like that mindset really kind of irks me too, of like, you have to figure out your costs, figure out what you need to make, and then you go from there. And that's it pretty much. And then you will start off with a bang because you will not have to dig yourself out in year 1, year 2, year 3. Because that...
And then you're not doing photography anymore because you never took it seriously in the first place.
Well, you were burnt out. Like, so that's the problem. What I don't like is, like, fine, you've changed your mind, but most of it isn't. It's just taken the joy out of an art that they loved,
Right?
Because they haven't charged enough. Like, that's to me, that's heartbreaking. Like, it's just they're burnt out, not spending time with their family. They quit their job because they wanted to spend time with their family, and now you're not, and you're not getting paid. Like,
I've said this a million times. There's nothing romantic about being a starving artist.
No.
There's not. There's no romance in that. You're just suffering for no reason.
No, and I don't even think sometimes people go into it thinking, I'm going to be a starving artist. They go into it thinking that it's more the lack of knowledge and from the industry of like, okay, well, I'm charging, $300 for this session. Well, that's great. That's more than I'm earning per hour. And it's like, no, but you've got the 12 hours of back end work, and you've also got costs. And so I think that's where the fail is versus, I think if you know your numbers and then you're not charging, that's the starving artist mentality.
Right. Which is, I see so many, I can't, I just want them to be happy. They won't like me if I charge as much. They won't. It's all that predetermined mindset that you have to, everyone has to like you, or you have to suffer a little bit, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. You can create beautiful art and make a living at it and make everybody happy.
Everybody happy.
Make your clients happy, because guess what? The better artist you are, the better they're going to look. The happier you are on the inside, it's going to radiate out. And so their experience with you is going to be fun. They're going to tell other people how fun it was.
Right.
It's all connected. It's all fluid. So if you are
connected,
struggling, it's going to come out. Your emails are going to be snippy. The way that you talk to people is going to be stressful. It all radiates together.
I'm lucky. I've never felt the need to lower what I feel like I need to make in order. I don't feel that way, but my clients still love me. Right. Like they still love it. Like, and also I feel like that they know like that they're supporting me versus taking advantage of me, which I think, they're supporting my business. And a lot of people see my kid and being like, oh, hi, there's your kid. And, whatever, like my clients become my friends. So I think it's not, and they come back. It's not that if you're charging a lot. Yeah. So how, primarily a wedding photographer and senior, would you say you do a lot of seniors or portraits? What's your focus mainly?
Wedding and portraits, and then seniors would definitely be like the second. Portraits just being, we do a lot of engagement sessions. I do a lot of headshots. Not so many families, but I don't advertise for them. And I'm not bringing them in because I don't necessarily want. Love them, but 2-year-olds are not my jam anymore. But yeah,
getting to the age they're not my jam.
I love my energy. I love their energy. I love that they're creative. I love that they always like to push the envelope because they are social media children brought up in that, and so they want to post things online. So they're always trying to get new looks. And I personally, I love that. I love when they come in and they're like, I saw this idea, and they explain it to me, and then we wow them with it, and it gives me a creative outlet, and I get to play with lighting and play with costumes and things, but also at the same time make money. I mean, It's amazing. It's amazing.
That's amazing, and I wish our area just never took off. We've tried with the high school seniors because I absolutely love that age. I really do. Yeah. I do. And like the journey that they're taking, it's just fun to even just have chat with, but they are very creative and they're willing to do things that are outside the bar. I don't know. I love that. So do you have any seasonality to your business? And if you do, how do you cope with it?
Yes. The winter, when we get into like November, December, January, February, is not necessarily wedding season. I usually will have 3 or 4 still. We'll have a couple winter weddings, and maybe I always have 1 or 2 January, February weddings, but it's not, summer and then fall. Fall here in Michigan is huge for weddings because it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Yeah. And for like 3 months straight, I am shooting almost every day because everybody wants their engagement sessions and senior portraits. So I know that I need to take my, plethora time of the year and take that money in, and then we use that towards, the dead time of the year. That being said, with wedding clients, I have specific payment structures set up.
Yeah.
that apply to everybody. So it's across the board. And because of that, I know exactly how much I'm making when. So if the wedding is 6 months away, I know that at this point, here comes, a payment, or here comes a payment. So I still make a paycheck throughout the year, even if I'm not technically working at that point.
Right.
So it just goes back to your numbers and your business and making sure that you are setting things aside. And then you can always, run specials and do other things to kind of fill in those gaps too. Myself, I'm not particularly fond of those things. I will still do them if I have some downtime or I need to. My turnout's not really great because that's not really how my business
is run. Yeah.
But I'll do it here and there sometimes I just get creatively bored. I just need somebody come in the studio so I can photograph you because I just need to create something.
I need to create something. Oh, you have an idea. Yeah. I mean, I tend to, newborns is not that seasonal. They have
right.
So I have less of that, but I still think doing family photos and similar to weddings, you have those times where you're like, I'm slammed.
Yeah.
And what I see is, I'm lucky in the fact that my husband's make hay while the sun shines. And basically because his business is seasonal too. So what I do is I outsource absolutely everything, laundry, everything I can during that time. I'm I am not touching I have a cleaner. I have someone to help.
Oh, wonderful. God bless you. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I just also, I'm otherwise I wouldn't do it. And then I'd feel really bad. And, and I'm just I need to maximize my time and
to be beneficial for your whole family.
The whole family, if I have a day off, do I want to be cleaning and, shopping? No, okay, now I'm Instacarting food and instead of going grocery shopping. And same thing with editing and, culling. I'm this is a time where I'm maximizing absolutely everything.
Yep.
But when I first started, I was January, what happened? I suck, should I live, So I think you realize that January and February, regardless of your genre, is really slow. Once you hit, it might be less if you're in a really nice location and people can get outside. But I think that one of the things that I would recommend is doing exactly what you did is save up during that busy season and put it to a side, even if you can pay yourself monthly from it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I remember that first year. I was oh, what did I do?
Yeah. Yeah,
I've spent a lot of money.
Growing pains, and Christmas. Don't go crazy at Christmas because January's coming and nobody's going to want to spend a penny. Everybody just maxed out, so you better have what you need. I always just pretend that no clients are coming in. Okay, for the next 2 months, I have not one single foot through the door.
Agreed.
Am I going to be okay? And you just, think about it that way. And then when you get money, you're oh, look, somebody.
Yeah. Unless it's a really good deal. I found that on Black Friday, or the sales is that's when I'm going to buy all of my memory cards and my external hard drive for the year. I have my list. I'm I'm going to, other versus buying it in January when it's double the price. But yeah, so that's interesting. It's very similar to me. It's now, but you learn it. You have to learn it the hard way. So just, but I will say, do not raise your prices in January. I mean, if you are underpriced, yes, you should. But the best time to raise your prices is right before a busy season.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to notice people as much. So if you are a family photographer, I would say raise them in August, anyway. Right. But people are raise my prices. It's crickets. It's January. I'm it's crickets anyway.
And in January, everybody's cutting back.
Yeah.
Everybody. This is that thing of it comes back to learning people. The business is part photography and part people. People have a way. We have a way of doing things as a society, and it doesn't take a genius to know that in January and February nobody spends a dime.
Right.
So just people think about how human behavior works, and mirror your business after that. For myself, with even weddings, one of the biggest things that I did that made a huge change in my income was I divided up sales for things that should be after the wedding date versus sales that should be before. So before, the sales are making sure that I'm booked, making sure we have hours of coverage, making sure the second shooter is going to be there, planning those things. Like, these are my have to do's before the wedding. And then I encourage my wedding clients, and I talk about them previously and leading, up to the wedding, so that this is not a shock to them. They know we have prepared them. After the wedding, when you come back in and you see your pictures, we're going to talk about wedding album and how big are we going to make that wedding album, and are we going to do canvases and prints and things. These are afters. They're afters because now they have the wedding money. Before, they had just had to get to the wedding, and they had bartenders to pay for, and they had limos, and they had other things. After the wedding, things have calmed down, the excitement has calmed down, but now we have some wedding money. And of course, now let's talk about paying for a bigger wedding album. I don't include like a base wedding album in my things, just to get them started, something very small, because I do want them to have one, but just very small and in 10 spreads. And I never include prints, canvases, medals, wall art. That is after product. That keeps the income coming in for me, but it also, with human behavior, with the way that they're getting the money in, it goes along with it. So we're all saying, yeah.
No, I love that. And you have to learn how your clients perceive, money, and like what they're, and you're a great salesperson, right? So, you learn sales. So you are seeing that the fact of like, when they come in and they see their images or something, I'm going to be like, this would be absolutely amazing in this canvas.
Right. And then after the wedding, they're buying a house.
Right.
So we're going to fill that house up with wall art.
Right.
Now you have a new house to play in.
Yeah. I love that.
You're not going to do that before.
No. And also, one of the things is if they cancel, you're spreading out sort of their costs too, as well as your income. That's amazing. Well, speaking of clients, like, do you have any red flags that you are like, I just got an email, I get a phone call, and I'm like, no, I'm going to run. That's like a dumpster fire waiting to happen. What would that be?
There's a lot, and you
after 20 years, you have a lot.
You really have to, forgive me for saying, you have to determine the amount of bullshit you're allowed to put up with in your own business. How much are you going to be able to deal with? I can deal with a lot because I am very structured now, and I'm very comfortable with people, and I'm good at telling people no in a fun and not, hurtful ways, so that they don't take it offensively. So you just have to, like, what are you going to allow? So if the initial email to you comes off as like, hey, I'm just checking prices. I don't even know what your work looks like. Give me a price. Is that someone you're going to want to work with? Because they are going to be penny pinching you. They're going to be comparing you to the person next door the entire experience. Do you want to respond to that? If you need the business, you might respond to it.
Right.
You might get it. But then everything that follows, just know that was a little red flag from the beginning. Or, I've had where everything was good. The first experience was good. The emails was good. I do a lot of in-person consultations if they're in the area. If not, we'll do a video face chat. I like to put faces to people. But if not, I have a studio. So they'll come in and we'll spend like 45 minutes shooting the breeze, talking about the wedding day, talking about everything and not, anything to do with numbers. Sometimes from that initial experience, I can tell already that this couple is not a couple that's going to last.
Right.
And do I want to sign a contract with them? Or, let's say, and God love mothers, but mothers who come in and who are overly, I don't want to say pushy, but just overly involved are huge red flags to me, because in all my experiences with them, I think maybe 2 ended up being okay, and the rest were horrible to work with. They tried to rewrite timelines for me. They tried to dictate my prices. They stressed my bride out to no end. So sometimes it's not even...
And on the day, right? Like the psychopaths on the day.
They are... they just can't... They're stressed too much about this wedding, and they can't just let things go organically. And I had one very memorable client I had to fire 2 years ago because this mother-in-law was a nightmare, and she wouldn't stop emailing and calling me, and it was too much. So I just, with the grace of God, let them go. So sometimes it just goes back to learning people. Are the humans people that you're going to want to spend with a wedding? The hours of your life for the next 2 years,
right?
Are you going to want to be Or do you want to save that wedding date for a client that you really love? Because that client will come along.
Right.
Don't feel desperate to sell that date, because that date is still very valuable and someone else will come and get it.
And also, you just made a really good point. It's not just that date, right? It's like the leading up to it headache.
You are now dating
date, and then it's afterwards, and you're like, this can ruin. Like, you know, I don't do weddings, but like for a family, it can ruin 3 months, and you're like I'm like dreading my email. I'm ignoring it, you know, like just because there's. And I'm like, I'm never again, not going to do it. I'm not torturing myself.
And if there are people who aren't going to be happy no matter what you do, don't put yourself in a place where now you're stressed because you feel like every picture you take isn't good enough. And now I have to over-edit all my pictures. Oh, they just sent me a list of 500 pictures they want hand-edited. How do I deal with that? Because I never told them in the first place that my prices don't include the editing. Do you want to deal with this? And if the answer is no, just give yourself some love and send them away, and the universe will bring you somebody good.
And I've found that, like, for example, there's, you know, certain, even things like, oh, please, can you do Johnny's birthday photo shoot, blah, 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 you know, at this location, and also take some photograph. It's like, you know what, I'm not the photographer for you. Like, I don't do events, right? I recommend so-and-so down the street who does great event photography and also portraits. And it just saves you, like, avoiding the like expectations that they're going to get the work that's on my website at some gymboree thing that has no lighting, and I'm not bringing lighting because there's 50 toddlers. You know, I'm not going to do it. Like, no, go that person.
Word no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
No.
Like,
and then don't feel bad, and then move on with your life. You'll be fine. I promise you. Turning down this one client is not going to ruin your business.
You'll feel relieved, actually.
You'll feel so good. Go get a coffee.
Doing it the first time, you're like, wow. And then every time you do it, you're like, whew, dodge that bullet.
Yep. It's so funny. I sometimes clients will ask me this question because they're very interested. You know, they're like, oh, do you have any like wedding horror stories or whatever? And I, without getting into details, I'll just tell them, well, I do fire clients. And she always like they didn't realize like there was an option. Like you can, and I was like, oh yeah, like I choose who I get to work with. It's so funny because they'll be like, and they'll sit up a little bit straighter and because they want to work with me, which is great. But
that shows that you're in control of your business, right? And that's one thing is we don't do enough of. It's like you're in control. You can say no.
You can say no to
anybody. Yeah, like be in control of it. Well, speaking of worst shoots, or where you didn't fire them, or experiences.
We have.
Let's just do one. You're like me. I have a lot.
I have so many.
Funny, like something that the groom did or the bride did on the wedding day. Those are fun too.
Every wedding, something happens. Okay, every wedding, there is going to be a story. There's going to be 50 stories. There's going to be 100 stories. I have 1,000. But one, I was talking to my assistant this morning, and she reminded me. One's a little funny story without embarrassing the client. Is they had a very formal ceremony, and I want to say it was maybe like a Lutheran. I don't remember. I want to say it was, but I don't remember the exact denomination. But it was a very formal church ceremony, and it was one of their home churches, so they had to have this for the family. They didn't necessarily, the bride and groom weren't very religious. It was just, this is where the family gets married, and we do this. And the priest comes out, and he's very ornate and ordained, and very, I couldn't tell if he was trying to be funny a little bit, but he was very dry humor and very uncomfortable. And throughout this 45-minute ceremony, he keeps saying the word marital bed. He said marital bed, I don't know, 50 times. And he's like, and then the marital bed, and you two will be in the marital bed. And don't forget, tonight is the marital. And her grandma sitting there, and her mom and her dad. And he's just like, don't forget, tonight is the marital bed. And then
awkward.
He made them swear 3 times throughout the ceremony that they were not related to one another. He made it such a big deal. He even said, it used to be a question back in the day when it was just, everybody asked it. He's like, the priest just asked it. He's like, but they don't ask that anymore. So I make sure to ask it. And 3 times. So 3 times he stopped and he's like, and you two aren't brother and sister. And we're all just like, what is happening?
This is so weird.
That was the most uncomfortable ceremony. You could hear a pin drop. It was so awkward. And my poor bride, such a sweetheart, was just like, not my brother.
Oh, was the reception fun though? I felt bad for them.
I don't know what was happening.
What? Like, did they have a good reception?
Yes. Everything else was very normal.
Gosh.
And they were lovely, lovely couple. But just this priest.
I wonder if they turned to each other now and be like, "Are you my brother?" Or the mirror. Seriously. Oh, that was really funny.
He was so, and he'd always make eye contact with the bride too. He'd look directly at her.
Weird.
And he's like, just, you better be a virgin. Just looking at her. And it was so sad. So that's one of many, 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 many,
many. Wow, that is awkward. I will say that's pretty awkward. Are you related?
Are you related? But just in front of everybody. Come on.
That's embarrassing.
Yep.
Couldn't you have done that when he met with them the night before or something? I'm just making sure.
Their families too, because they were. So what was the point? I don't know.
Sometimes you have to, so newer photographers, you might have to refrain from laughing your head off during some ceremonies.
This is why you have an assistant. And you make eye contact with them from across the room. And when you get in the car, you can let it all out. You just okay, I heard that. I'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need the witness of the craziness that goes on.
Oh God, please never do a wedding alone. Just have somebody else with you.
What's the one thing that you have in your camera bag that you would never leave home without it, or you'd feel like?
Oh, let's see. I have so much. I'm a pack rat when it comes to so beyond cameras and lenses and batteries and lights and all those things. I have little things. I have sticky bra tape.
Yeah,
what that goes there. So we use that for all kinds of things, wedding rings, and all kinds of little doodads. I have a little twinkle lights, battery operated twinkle lights that we shoot through. Sometimes the room or just whatever is just very plain, and so we can use those to make it look better.
So you'd use the sticky bra tape to hold the rings down in place, right?
Yeah. I am very talented. I have a very good talent of balancing rings. So I'm very, very good. But sometimes if that ring just won't balance, I can use a little tape, and then we'll take the tape away in post production. But I had learned the art. Everything has a balance point. Everything has a balance point. So if you work on it, you can get that ring to stay. But yeah, so the sticky bra tape is it comes in clutch, man. Yeah,
I can imagine that. Yeah. It's fascinating. All right. This has been so amazing, Amber. I could chat with you all afternoon. And so, tell our audience how they can find you. We will put everything in the show notes, but, sometimes people prefer to listen to it.
Right. I am super easy to find. Amber Henry Photography. Literally anywhere. My Instagram, my website, my Facebook, Amber Henry Photography. TikTok. If you're on TikTok, please come follow me. My following is getting really big. I love TikTok for my TikTok is more for photographers, because I do a lot of mentorship. So photographers are kind of my second clientele. So I do a lot of behind the scenes before and afters on there. Whereas my other pages are more to show work to clients and things. And then if you are a female photographer, I run a group on Facebook. We just celebrated a year, so we're babies. We're very new. But it's a project I've wanted to do. It's very near and dear to my heart. We are called Females Who Flash.
I love that.
So Females Who Flash. And it does not mean you have to be a flash photographer, okay? Just a photographer. If you're natural light, come join us. We talk about literally everything. We talk about marriage and kids and how we're feeling. And we talk about business and photography shoots. And we're doing get-togethers, and we're doing critiques and things inside the group. But the number one thing about this group that you'll find that women say over and over again, it is the only group that they feel safe sharing in because they know they're not going to get some GWC who's going to jump in there and be like, well, I would have done this and this. We don't allow any of that. And none of my ladies in this group, I have never in over a year muted a comment, deleted a comment, had to talk to any of the members, nothing, because no one has ever been rude or nasty. Everybody has been helpful. It's amazing. So if you
I will definitely check that out, and I will probably add quite a lot of my friends that,
yes, some flash, come join us.
There are a lot of groups out there where it does tend to get dominated by the trolls, I call them. I'm like,
right.
You really need to? Really? She's asking a normal question.
Right. Like, I don't like your picture. This is not helpful to me. We don't allow it.
Like your face. How about that? Like,
my profile picture is a cartoon. What are you, Chad?
Chad.
Good Chad.
All right. No. Thanks, Henry, and thanks, Chad, for listening.
We love you. Good Chad.
Okay, I'm good.